continue serving them as their Member of Parliament, Kikuyu, and as I dedicate my time also to serve this House as the Leader of Majority.
Alive to the fact that we have very many new members, but we need to start training them from day one. The Honourable Member, I'm yet to learn his name, has twice crossed the floor, going the other side and coming back without going to the bar. I hope, in terms of orientation, we want to help you next time. You must go to the bar, and then you go to the other side. So, Mr. Speaker.
For our new colleagues in the House, it is out of order to walk across the aisle. If you want to cross the floor to talk to your colleagues across, you go up to the bar, you bow, and then you walk across. And for avoidance of doubt on the debate, the Honourable Ichung'wah and those who will speak, if I see a lot of interest already on the screen, so that you organize your thoughts properly, I'll give you 10 minutes. I'll give you 15 minutes, I'll give Wandai 15 minutes, and the rest of the members will start off with about 10 minutes. If the interest continues persisting, I'll reduce it to 5.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and I'll endeavour to do so in the 15 minutes. And Honourable Speaker was saying the question that you're being called upon to make a decision on, Honourable Speaker, is well grounded in our Constitution, in Article 108 of our Constitution, Honourable Speaker, that establishes the office of the Leader of Majority, Honourable Speaker. And Honourable Speaker, the same, Honourable Speaker, is replicated in Standing Order number 19 of our standing orders. Honourable Speaker, if you allow me to quote from the Constitution, the Constitution tells us there shall be a leader of the majority party and a leader of the minority party. 2, the leader of the majority party shall be the person who is the leader in the National Assembly of the largest party or coalition of parties. Honourable Speaker, it then goes ahead to designate who will be the leader of the minority party as the leader of the second largest party or coalition of political parties. Honourable Speaker, indeed the question that is before you and before this House, Honourable Speaker, is to simply determine which is the largest coalition of political parties or the largest political party. And that party, Honourable Speaker, must be a parliamentary political party, as is stipulated, I think, in Standing Order 20A of our own Standing Orders, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, you have said in your communication that you have received letters, I think a letter dated the 21st or 19th of September from the Honourable Junet Mohammed on the 21st of September, Honourable Speaker, who wrote on behalf of the Azimio One Kenya Coalition Political Party. Honourable Speaker, it is worth noting that as you communicated, you also indicated the Honourable Soro and myself did write to you, communicating the decision of the Kenya Kwanza coalition and who we had elected as leaders of our coalition. Honourable Speaker, you will note from your own communication, whereas we did attach our minutes stating the place, time, and attendees of our parliamentary group meeting, the letter by the Honourable Junet Mohammed has neither the place of that meeting, it has neither the time or the attendees of that meeting. And it is important, Honourable Speaker, because we are a house of procedures, it is important that such letters do indicate who were the attendees, because the questions that are before you, Honourable Speaker, is on the constitution of either the Kenya Kwanza coalition of political parties in this House as parliamentary political parties, or if Azimio One Kenya Coalition Party exists as a coalition of political parties, Honourable Speaker. And it is my humble submission, Honourable Speaker, that those of us who were in this House in the last Parliament, in the 13th Parliament, Honourable Speaker, you in the 12th Parliament, Honourable Speaker, you remember the animated debate that we had as we amended the Political Parties Act through the Political Parties Amendment Bill, Honourable Speaker. A very chaotic debate, Honourable Speaker, and I remember many of us vehemently opposed many of the amendments that were proposed. Top among those amendments was the creation of an amorphous thing, a mongrel sort of thing that was called the coalition political party. Honorable Speaker, what you are being asked today to decide on is anchored in the amendments that we did in the 12th Parliament to our political parties. And the chaos you witness in this House today, in terms of management of our political parties, Honorable Speaker, emanates from the passage of the amendments to that political party's amendment bill in the last Parliament, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, if you allow me, the particular amendments, Honorable Speaker, created what certain definitions, and Honorable Speaker, if you read Article 10, or Clause 10 of Section 10 of the bill, it defines what a coalition political party is. Honorable Speaker, it defines what a political party is. And a political party, Honorable Speaker, is said to be, Honorable Speaker, that...
Yes, Honorable Member. Please help me by saying your name and constituency.
And the standing order is standing order.
And the standing order that has been violated.
Yeah, it is on.
You have the mic,
Thank you
Honorable
very
Member.
much, Honorable Speaker. My name is Honorable Karoli Omondi from Suba South.
Yes.
It's quite unfortunate that I begin my statement in this House by raising a point of order, understanding Order 2B. Is it in order, Mr. Speaker, for this House to debate a matter that should have been determined by the clerk of the House by simply writing a letter to the registrar of political parties to determine the relative majorities of the parties in this House? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Karoli Omondi, that is a matter that is way behind us. I've given direction, and you are under no legal authority to challenge what the Speaker has directed. I also want to encourage members that because of the limited time, and I want to assure you have the capacity and the ability to listen and to determine this matter. Let's give members who are debating some silence listening so that I can hear them properly and bring you back a determination. So unless it's a really serious breach of the standing orders, let's restrain ourselves from raising unhelpful points of order.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for that guidance. And Honorable Speaker, I was at a point where I was saying that the current mess that we are witnessing, Honorable Speaker, on this issue is occasioned by the definitions of the words coalition and coalition political party. And Honorable Speaker, for clarity, I wanted to read the definitions as they exist in the Act. That a coalition means an alliance of two or more political parties formed for the purpose of pursuing a common goal and is governed by a written agreement deposited with the registrar. Honorable Speaker, it is worthwhile to note that Kenya Kwanza coalition is a coalition pursuant to that definition. And therefore, it is a coalition of political parties that are governed by a written agreement, Honorable Speaker, which I shall be tabling. We do have a number of coalition agreements that are agreed upon that were signed, Honorable Speaker, and I'll be tabling the coalition agreement between Kenya Kwanza, the parties UDA, the founding parties UDA, ANC, Ford Kenya, Honorable Speaker, and further agreements with the Umoja na Maendeleo Party. I will also be tabling a coalition agreement between Kenya Kwanza and Tujibebe wa Kenya Party, a further agreement with the Service Party of Kenya, another agreement, Honorable Speaker, with the Pamoja Alliance, Pamoja African Alliance, PA, a further agreement, Honorable Speaker, with the Maendeleo Chap Party. I shall also be tabling, Honorable Speaker, for your ease of perusal, an agreement between the founding parties of Kenya Kwanza and the Farmers Party. Another one with the Economic Freedom Party, Honorable Speaker. another one with the Devolution Party of Kenya, one with the Democratic Party of Kenya, Honorable Speaker, the Communist Party of Kenya and Kenya Kwanza Alliance founding parties, Chama cha Kazi, Honorable Speaker, the Democratic Party of Kenya, Honorable Speaker. I will also table one from the National Agenda Party of Kenya, the Grand Dream Development Party, led by our friend and colleague, the Honorable Fabian Muli, and the coalition, post-election coalition agreement between GDDP, post-election, Honorable Speaker, between GDDP and Kenya Kwanza, a post-election coalition agreement between the United Democratic Movement UDM and Kenya Kwanza, a post-election coalition agreement between MDG, the Movement for Democracy and Growth, led by our brother and colleague, the Honorable David Ochieng. Honorable Speaker, all these coalitions are to bear witness, Honorable Speaker, that indeed Kenya Kwanza is a coalition of political parties as per the definition of the Act, Honorable Speaker. The second definition, Honorable Speaker, is one of a coalition political party. And the Act tells us that this means a coalition registered by the registrar as a political party. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, I would beg, Honorable Speaker, and I want to challenge my colleague, the Honorable Junet Mohammed, and the Honorable Opio Wandai, who you called my protagonist, but is actually my very good friend, Honorable Speaker. They are here contending to be leading the majority. Honorable Speaker, the question of determining a majority is very easy because it's just a question of calculating the numbers of parliamentary political parties. And the definition of a parliamentary political party is in this standing order number 20. Honorable Speaker, we must then ask ourselves the question, is the Azimio One Kenya Alliance Coalition political party a party? Is it a parliamentary political party? And the straight answer, Honorable Speaker, is that Azimio One Kenya Coalition Party does not exist as a parliamentary political party. Honorable Speaker, but that does not mean that the constituent parties that came together to form Azimio One Kenya Alliance political party are not parties in their own right. And that is why, Honorable Speaker, with all due respect to the other parties, and indeed, Honorable Speaker, you have also in your communication alluded to the fact of 2021 and completed in January of this year, Honorable Speaker. I remember, Honorable Speaker, standing in my place somewhere behind here, reminding our colleagues that this law that you have just passed will punish you more than it will ever punish me or those of us that were then called the Tanga or UDA Brigade, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, chickens have come home to roost. Nobody is being punished, but we are paying for that acrimonious debate and a law that was procured in this assembly in a manner that we should never, ever engage in procuring or in legislating. We are a house that legislates through consultation. We never consulted each other as we passed that law, Honorable Speaker. And it is sad. And I pray, Honorable Speaker, that this 13th Assembly will not take the route and will never take the route that the 12th Assembly took. We must be a house that consults. I am glad, Honorable Speaker, that we sit here with my brother, Honorable Pio Wandai, and my brother, Honorable Jonette, as colleagues in one house, listening to each other and debating, because this is a house of debate, Honorable Speaker. And we must gain the respect and the dignity that we are accorded by the Kenyan people who have elected us by coming to this house, listening to each other and debating. Honorable Speaker, I want to submit, Honorable Speaker, that besides the agreements, Honorable Speaker, that we are tabling, when I say that Azimio One Kenya Alliance, One Kenya Coalition Party, is not a parliamentary political party, it is because the definition as contained in our standing orders stipulates that you must have at least 5% of the members of the National Assembly to be a parliamentary political party. Azimio One Kenya Coalition Party has not a single member of parliament. Indeed, Honorable Speaker, in a case that was filed by Dhuranira and 4 others versus the Attorney General and 2 others, including the Registrar of Political Parties and 3 others as interested parties, Honorable Speaker, the High Court allowed the constituent parties in Azimio One Kenya to field individual party candidates, and that is what they did. That is why we have 26 parties represented in this House, including ODM, Jubilee, Wiper, UDA, ANC, Ford Kenya, and all our other parties. Honorable Speaker, by Gazette notice that was published on the 1st of July 2022, Honorable Speaker, this is the schedule that published all the people who are nominated to run for either president or parliamentary seats. Honorable Speaker, I'll be tabling this Gazette notice. There was only one candidate who ran for the office of President of Kenya, the Honorable Odinga Raila Karua Martha Wangari, who ran as a Azimio One La Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party candidates with the emblem and symbols of the Azimio One Kenya political party. That party has no representation in this House. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, we only need to ask ourselves, if Azimio One Kenya Alliance political party is not represented in this House, and the leader of that alliance is not in this House, Honorable Speaker, therefore it is only natural that the coalition with the largest number of members in this House, being the Kenya Kwanza Alliance, naturally, the leader of majority and the majority party then is the leader that leads that coalition. And that is yours faithfully, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, we must also ask ourselves, because I have seen it in the media, Honorable Speaker, and without even quoting, Honorable Speaker, you're also being asked to rule on issues that touch on individual and corporate political rights, because parties belong to people, they are managed by people, and they harbor people. And those people and those parties as corporate entities enjoy political rights in line with Article 38 of our Constitution, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Speaker, you do know that Article 36 of our Constitution, Honorable Speaker, also guarantees us certain rights that are not, that cannot be taken away, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Speaker, you must ask yourself, Honorable Speaker, and we must ask ourselves, because the contention, Honorable Speaker, relates to a few of us, especially those members who belong to UDM, who are sitting here, members who belong to MDG, like my brother David Ochieng, who is sitting here, members who belong to Maendeleo Chap, members who belong to the Pamoja African Alliance, PA, and they are in this House, Honorable Speaker. Can you, as Speaker, because that is a question we are asking you to make a determination on, can you, as Speaker, ignore their fundamental right to the freedom to association, to be able to associate or coalesce with anybody that they want to coalesce with, as individuals and as political parties? Can that right be taken away, Honorable Speaker, by Clause 22 of the Azimio Agreement? And Honorable Speaker, I will dare challenge my brothers in the Azimio One Kenya Coalition Party. I have tabled coalition agreements between parties that assented to the Kenya Kwanza Alliance, I dare you, table the Azimio One Kenya Coalition Party agreements that are signed by any of these political parties. And I would dare you to table that agreement. Because it is also in contention, Honorable Speaker, as to how those agreements were procured, Honorable Speaker. We have had harrowing stories of how people were coerced under the last regime to sign blank pieces of paper with just your party name on a dotted line on one piece of paper, Honorable Speaker, not knowing what you are signing for, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I know you have been a senior member of the legal profession, and I do not want to pretend to be one. But at least I did study a little bit of the law of contract as I started for my CPA with the Honorable John Mbadi, although I was slightly ahead of him. Honorable Speaker, the Honorable John Mbadi might be slightly older than me, but I was slightly ahead of him in the profession. I qualified as a CPA when I was in my first year at the University of Nairobi. Honorable Speaker, I was saying in the law of contract, you know any agreement that is obtained either under duress or with the concealment of material facts, that agreement cannot stand in law. Therefore, our brothers in the One Kenya Coalition, I am sorry, and I am sorry to you, and I am sorry to the Kenyan people, because we created this mess right on this floor. And that is why I appeal, as I conclude, Honorable Speaker, to our colleagues. This issue, Honorable Speaker, we are confident that you'll be able to make a ruling on it, Honorable Speaker. But as we begin this 13th assembly, I dare say we must never get back to where we got to in the 12th Parliament, Honorable Speaker. We never consulted each other as we made a mess out of the political parties that govern and guide the growth of our democracy. This particular law, as was passed, Honorable Speaker, I said then that it would not only punish us and punish those who are vehemently supporting it, and punish you more than it would punish those who are vehemently opposing it, but it was a dangerous law for the governance of our country and the growth of our democracy, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to submit, Honorable Speaker, that my colleagues in the Azimio One Kenya Alliance, Honorable Speaker, do know they do not have the numbers. They know the Honorable Jeremiah Kioni, former member of Ndaragwa, as Secretary General of Jubilee, has written to you, Honorable Speaker, as the Secretary General of Jubilee, communicating their leadership in this House. They do know, Honorable Speaker, that the Azimio One Kenya Coalition Party does not exist in this House. Indeed, Honorable Speaker, I must commend ODM because they have been magnanimous to share positions with Jubilee and even with their brothers in Wiper. I must commend ODM as the oldest political party, because ODM is the second largest political party, and that ought to be the leader, the party in the minority, and the Honorable Pio and I ought to be the leader of minority leading the ODM brigade in this House. And the Honorable Junet can whip the ODM members.
Your time is up.
Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Wandai.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. And this being my first time to speak in the 13th Parliament, Mr. Speaker, allow me to take this opportunity to first and foremost congratulate you on your election as the Speaker of the 13th National Assembly. And also to congratulate my colleagues who have made it to this House this time round. Mr. Speaker, I am indeed pleased to note that you have repeatedly said since your election that you will be the Speaker of the whole House, in spite, of course, of the fact that my coalition did have a candidate against you. Mr. Speaker, I also recognize that you have got immense experience as a parliamentarian, and you are also a distinguished legal practitioner, spanning very many years. Mr. Speaker, let me tell you that when I was growing up, I came to learn that you, as a young lawyer then, young advocate, was bold enough to come out and defend some of the victims of the 1982 coup attempt. That goes to say, really, the kind of person you are. And therefore, this House, I believe, stands to benefit immensely from your wise counsel and your very rich experience. But coming back to the issue at hand, Mr. Speaker, I want us to take note of the fact that the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya 2010 makes it at Article 3, Subarticle 1, an obligation for every single person to respect, uphold, and defend the Constitution. That responsibility, that obligation is even more so pertinent for some of us who have taken oath of office to defend that Constitution. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I've been listening very keenly to my friend and compatriot, the Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah. But let me take you to Article 259 of the Constitution. Article 259 of the Constitution requires that as we interpret the Constitution, we do so in a manner that promotes its purposes. Allow me to just take you through it. That this Constitution shall be interpreted in a manner that, among others, promotes its purposes, values, and principles, and also in a manner that contributes to good governance. What I mean to say, Mr. Speaker, is that you need to undertake a holistic reading of the Constitution for you to arrive at any particular conclusion or determination. Selective reading of the Constitution, or any law for that matter, really, may not be helpful in examining a matter of significance such as the one that we are faced with this afternoon. Mr. Speaker, Article 108 has been spoken to by my colleague, the Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah. And there's no doubt, indeed, that under Article 108, both Part 1 and 2, the leader of majority party shall be the person who is the leader of the National Assembly of the largest party or coalition of parties. Mr. Speaker, standing orders of the National Assembly. In fact, those of us who are privileged to be in this House in the 12th Parliament will recall that we did make some amendments towards the end of that House. So, Speaker, the Standing Order number 1 provides, and I want to read, that in all cases where matters are not expressly provided for by these standing orders or by the orders of the House, any procedural question shall be decided by the Speaker. But it goes on to say at Part 2, and this is very important, that the decisions made in Paragraph 1 shall be based on the Constitution of Kenya, statute law, and I dare say in this case, the Political Parties Act of 2011, as amended severally, including the amendment of 2022. Statute law and usages, forms, precedents, customs, procedures, traditions, and practices of the Parliament of Kenya and other jurisdictions to the extent that these are applicable to Kenya. Mr. Speaker, we have come to a point where we seem to be asking you to make a decision, to make a determination on a matter that is so well provided for, so expressly provided for by not only the Constitution, the Political Parties Act, but also by our own standing orders. And let me take you to standing order number 2B. Yes, standing order number 2B, Mr. Speaker. And I will read for avoidance of doubt. Clerk to obtain coalition agreements. That is the title or the subtitle of that particular standing order. And members, listen carefully. It says at 2B that the clerk shall obtain from the registrar of political parties a certified copy of any coalition agreement entered into by the two or more parties in the National Assembly for purposes of ascertaining the relative majorities in the House and facilitating the transaction of the business of the House. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, pursuant to this particular standing order, I dare say, the acting clerk of the National Assembly, and I must commend her for her diligence, the acting clerk of the National Assembly on the 2nd of September 2022 did write to the registrar of political parties seeking this information. And indeed, Mr. Speaker, the registrar duly responded to her letter on the 7th of September 2022. The registrar of political parties wrote to the clerk of the National Assembly. And I want to read excerpts of that letter. Mr. Speaker, if I could be allowed to continue. Sorry.
Mr. Speaker, I don't want to correct my former chairman of Public Accounts Committee, but before he leaves Standing Order 2B, Speaker, just like Honorable Chungwa, can he first table the Azimio Agreement as provided and certified by the Registrar of Political Parties?
Can I continue?
Yes. Give him the mic.
So, Speaker, because why am I saying so? Speaker, Standing Order 2B, as correctly read by the Honorable Opio Wandai, is very specific. It says the clerk of the National Assembly will write to the registrar of political parties, one and Deritu, asking the National Assembly to be provided with. So, Mr. Speaker, the basis of our argument is not about the letter. It's about the coalition agreement. We have seen Kenya Kwanza. Can we get the one for Azimio?
Honorable members, that is a line of argument that you can pursue, and I'll give you an opportunity.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for protecting me from my friend and senior in the House, Honorable Dwali. In the course of my submissions, I will be educating him a little bit on matters law. Mr. Speaker, I was saying that on the 7th of September, the registrar of political parties did write back to the clerk of the National Assembly. And she said, request for information on coalition agreements. Request for information on coalition agreements. Reference is made to the above subject matter and your letter dated 2nd September 2022, whose content is duly noted. Pursuant to Section 10 of the Political Parties Act 2011, as read together with Regulation 21 of the Political Parties Registration Regulations 2019, and in line with your request, the constituent political parties of coalitions and effective dates are as listed below. 1. Coalition name, Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party. Listen, just listen. Constituent parties, Jubilee, ODM, Wiper, KANU, NAC. You can say no, but I'm telling you what is, what is here. Yes. You will continue shouting no, but that won't make a difference. KANU, NAC Kenya, Muungano Party, Maendeleo Chap Chap, Democratic Action Party, Devolution Empowerment Party, UPIA, UDM. Just continue shouting UDM. I mean, no. UPA, PA, KUP, UDP, MDG, MDG, KRP, Chama cha Uzalendo, Party for Peace and Democracy, National Liberal Party, People's Trust Party, Ubuntu People's Forum, PNU, Labour Party of Kenya, Party for Growth and Prosperity. Those are 26. Those are 26 political parties that had signed a coalition agreement under the umbrella of the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party on the 21st April 2022. Of course, it goes on to list those parties under the Kenya Kwanza Alliance, which I want to read. Okay, I can read, yeah. UDA, ANC, Ford Kenya, CCK, Communist, Service Party, Tujibebe, Farmers Party, Devolution Party, EFP, Umoja, Maendeleo, that had signed an agreement with Kenya Kwanza on 3rd June 2022. There are other parties listed here. Listen carefully, members. As having signed a coalition agreement under Kenya Kwanza post-election, that is on the 5th of September 2022. These are DP, National Agenda Party, Grand Dream Development Party, Chama cha Mashinani. Then it goes on. This is important. To say that further, the following political party is not a member of any coalition. That is NOPEU. But it has since gotten into some arrangement with Azimio, yeah. Then you may wish to note, finally, that the following political parties have filed constitutional petitions and or have filed objections with regard to their membership in Azimio. That is Maendeleo Chap Chap, UDM, and MDG. But let me say this now. Let me say this. As I say so, allow me to table this, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker,
Members, we shall hear the Honorable Wandai in silence.
Mr. Speaker, this is a matter, and I want to go to Standing Order 19. Standing Order 19. Sorry. I need an assistant at this rate. No. United as a member of this House can't be my assistant. Standing Order number 19A, Part 8. Okay? First and foremost, let me go to Standing Order 19A, Part 3. Part 3 says that the majority party whip shall communicate the name of the members elected, of course, as leaders of the coalition, under paragraph 1 to the Speaker in writing on behalf of the majority party. I wanted to say this because there was an argument that Honorable Jeanette didn't attach minutes of the meeting, of the PG meeting.
No requirement.
There is no requirement under Understanding Order 19A, Part 3 for that. The only time you need the minutes of a PG meeting is when you are changing the leadership of majority or minority. That is at Standing Order 19A, Part 7. The Speaker, Part 8, 19A, Part 8 says, upon receipt of the notification and the documents under paragraph 7, and confirmation that the threshold for removal, well, that is for removal. Okay. At 19A, Part 4, the Speaker shall, as soon as practicable, following receipt of the names under paragraph 3, convey the information to the assembled House if the House is sitting, or notify members if the House is not sitting, as he earlier on alluded. So therefore, what am I saying? That upon the convening of the 13th Parliament, and upon the determination by the clerk of the National Assembly of the status of the various coalitions from the Registrar of Political Parties pursuant to Standing Order 2B, and upon the confirmation by the Registrar of Political Parties to the clerk, the Speaker is simply expected, indeed required, under Standing Order 19A, Part 4, to simply convey the same to the House. That is what the law and the standing orders dictate. Any other thing is mere hot air. Mr. Speaker, let me take you back to the provisions of the Political Parties Act. Because an argument, indeed, very lame argument, has been advanced before that Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party is not a coalition. Let me educate you, honorable members. If you go to the Political Parties Act, and this is an act of parliament, we all know, members, that was passed in this House and subsequently amended, including the latest one of this year. If you go to interpretation, in this act, unless the context otherwise requires, political party means an association of citizens with an identifiable ideology or program that is constituted for the purpose of influencing public policy, of nominating candidates to contest elections. And Part B, a political party includes a coalition political party. A political party includes what? A coalition political party. And it goes on to define what a coalition political party means. And says a coalition political party is a coalition that is registered by the registrar as a political party. So in short, therefore, Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party is both a political party and a coalition under the Political Parties Act. This is the law. Nobody has challenged it, and no court of law has declared it unconstitutional. As you all know, the power or the mandate to determine constitutionality of any law is vested in the High Court under Article 165 of the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, the High Court, in Petition 043 of 2022, affirmed this position, affirmed the position that Azimio is both a party and a coalition. And let me read excerpt of that ruling, of that court ruling. There was no difference between a coalition party under the old law and a coalition political party. It stated, as for coalitions, the same have always existed in the law as they are provided for in Section 10 of the Political Parties Act. For all practical purposes, we have had coalition political parties in Kenya. One example is the Jubilee Political Party, which comprised parties like TNA, URP, among others. The only difference is that at that time, the constituent parties would be dissolved. But in the new definition of the constituent parties under the Act, parties will retain their individual identities. Therefore, all that the amendment has done is to formalize these practices through legislation. That is the court speaking, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the High Court is speaking. The High Court of the Republic of Kenya is speaking. And again, to educate my colleague, Honorable Didmas, a court judgment is law. It's what we call case law. And until I've said the court. Mr. Speaker, the author of the letter that I've just quoted from, that is the registrar of political parties, is the official custodian of all coalition agreements. There is actually no need for us to table any agreement because the author of that letter is the custodian of all these agreements. If you want to confirm with her, you simply take a walk to her office and confirm the same. We don't act in vain. Okay? Let me conclude. Mr. Speaker, this is a matter that, as I had said earlier on, does not really need to exercise your mind. It's a matter that you can dispense with very easily by simply going back to the Standing Order 2B. And let me say this. Eskin May, who is one of the authorities that is acclaimed the world over, has determined previously in his writings that the matters of leadership of political coalitions or parties in the House is a question of the result of parliamentary elections. If you read the 25th edition of Eskin May, which was published, I think, in 2019, you will come to realize that these matters that we are discussing here are determined way back at the time we are doing parliamentary elections. Indeed, even in the US, the matters of majority and minority are determined in the House of Representatives at the time you are carrying out parliamentary elections. No amount of gerrymandering can change the situation.
Order on the Wandai. It's a point of order.
Honorable Speaker, as much as I don't like to interrupt my good friend and colleague, but Honorable Speaker, when you allude to court cases that are before the courts, Honorable Speaker, I think it bears, the burden is on the Honorable Pio Wandai to make statements of facts. And Honorable Speaker, the case that the Honorable Pio Wandai alludes to is the same case I was alluding to, and the Honorable Pio Wandai knows that the court indeed did determine, as he says, that a coalition political party is a political party and therefore can field candidates, and the constituent political parties can also field candidates. And that is the reason why Opiyo Wandayi is here as Member of Parliament under ODM. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, that cannot be used to vitiate the fact that Azimio One Kenya Coalition does not exist as a coalition of political parties. And the Honorable Opiyo Wandayi did indicate in his submission that Azimio One Kenya, therefore, from that court ruling, can be interpreted to mean that Azimio One Kenya Coalition Party is a coalition of political parties. The question before the court was on a party and a coalition political parties, not a coalition of parties.
Yes, you have
Just 1 minute.
10 seconds.
Mr. Speaker, let me end by saying this, that in the present circumstances, may you be guided by the famous, may you be guided, Mr. Speaker, by the famous doctrine in law of torts, res ipsa loquitur. Yes, Mr. Speaker, with those very many words,
It's called
thank you.
res ipsa loquitur.
Yes.
I will now give the whip of Kenya Kwanza. If you want to speak later, I can give other members. I had
No, Honourable
committed to
Speaker,
give to
I-
the whips.
No, I'm very ready, Honorable Speaker.
After you, Junet, then I'll give members to speak.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
You have 10 minutes.
Okay, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, also being the inaugural address in this 13th Parliament, I also wish to take this opportunity to thank the great people of South Mogrango for having faith in me again for the second time, and also wish to congratulate you for being elected as our Speaker for this session. Honorable Speaker, having said that, allow me, Honorable Speaker, to table the letters from the Kenya Kwanza Coalition appointing the Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah, the Kikuyu Member of Parliament, as the majority leader of the Kenya Kwanza Coalition, Honorable Owen Baya as the deputy majority leader, and Honorable Naomi Wako as the deputy chief whip of this coalition. Honorable Speaker, those letters are accompanied by the resolution. Junet, you need to cool down. No, I have tabled the letters appointing the majority leader and the deputy majority leader, Honorable Speaker, and those letters are accompanied by the...
Yes, Junet. What's your point of order?
Of course, they behave like somebody who has been here before. Mr. Speaker, I didn't want to interrupt him. I wanted to bring to your attention that when a member is tabling a document, Mr. Speaker, he does it himself. It's procedural. He can't give it to someone, go and table for me. So on the records, it will be tabled by the other member and not him. So, I know he has been busy in the campaign.
No. Honorable Speaker, I stand guided, but I think I appointed somebody, of course, to become my huntsman for just this particular session, but they are adequately tabled as guided. But if you so wish, of course, I can have them back and then table it myself.
Go on.
Exactly.
Go on.
But they are well tabled, Honorable Junet. Honorable Speaker, the tabled documents or the tabled letters annexed with are with the resolutions and the minutes from the Kenya Kwanza Coalition. What you will note in those resolutions, and even the attendees of that list, as indicated in the entire list, is that in the minutes, people who attended the meeting that appointed Honorable Ichung'wah as the majority leader, the members that attended are about 179, drawn from different parties. And if you'll allow me, Honorable Speaker, in the attendance, UDA had 145, UDM had 8, PAR had 3, MCCP had 2 in that meeting, MDG had 1, ANC 8, Ford Kenya 6, TSP 2, DP 1, CCM 1, NAP Kenya 1, and GDDP 1. In total, Honorable Speaker, those are 179 members. Honorable Speaker, in the past 1 week, I've been very busy also receiving several members of this House, requesting me to place them in committees, some of which are independent members of Parliament. In total, possibly there could be 10. So today, we are talking about 189 members associating themselves with the Kenya Kwanza coalition and, of course, clearly describing our majority in terms of numbers. Honorable Speaker, if this was a marriage that you are called to be a vicar, then clearly the consummation of marriage happened in Naivasha. A child was born, and actually not 1, not 2, but 4, Honorable Speaker. And now you are being invited today to make a determination on which particular spouse a certain spouse wants. A marriage is claimed to have taken place about 2 months ago or thereabout, and there is a spouse who feels, I don't belong here, and is decided to go this other direction. And that spouse is equipped with the Constitution of Kenya, Article 38, Article 36, on the rights of association. Honorable Speaker, even a first-year student knows that a contractual agreement entered under coercion and threats is a nullity, and you cannot validate it, Honorable Speaker, even from your seat. Any agreement that is entered at night, entered through blackmail and coercion, is a nullity. Today, I challenge the Honorable Junet, who, of course, is salivating for my majority whip seat, to table before you a resolution by the Azimio Coalition Party today with a list of members who have appended their signatures in attendance of that particular meeting, a resolution and minutes of that particular meeting, are not mere statements that we are the numbers, we are the majority. At some point, of course, we were together, and now, of course, we had a coalition agreement. Honorable Speaker, you and I know, as legal practitioners, that any law, any legislation, or any agreement that contravenes the supreme law of the land, and that is the Constitution, is null and void. Our Constitution, Honorable Speaker, is supreme. Article 36 provides for rights of association. You cannot force MDG to go in bed with you. They do not want. And they are protected by Article 36. You can't force them. You cannot force independence. You cannot force Maendeleo Chap to go in bed with you. You cannot use a mere paper that you coerced members to sign, that you've got to be with us. You signed this paper. Those people are protected. Those members are protected under Article 36 and Article 38. Honorable Speaker, the invitation you are being called upon to determine on a mere paper, on a mere agreement, that even the contents to which were not shared to those people who signed is wrong. Please decline that invitation. The majority coalition is Kenya Kwanza. And the right of association cannot be downplayed by a mere agreement. Honorable Speaker, the third point that, as you retire to make your determination, that you need to relook at, is the provision of Article 108 on the definition of what a political party is. Honorable Speaker, by all standards, from whichever angle you choose to look at this whole thing, the definition of Azimio as it stands now is simply Azimio Coalition Party. it stands with the same level. It positions itself with the same level as ODM, as UDA, as Maendeleo Chap Chap, and all these other parties. And today, Honorable Speaker, if you call for account the members of Azimio Coalition Party here in this House, you'll get none. There is only one member of Azimio Coalition Party, as provided, if you go by the definition of Article 1082, and that is the Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. All the rest are members of parties, including myself. I'm a member of UDA. The Honorable Junet is a member of ODM, who enjoy a sizable number of these in this House. They are only 88. And I also want to echo the sentiments of my colleague, Honorable Ishungwa, when he said that they've also been very fair to award or to give, to share their very small, meager cake to their short brothers, to their brothers who don't deserve, the Wiper and the other parties. Honorable Speaker, we challenge them today.
Yes, the Honorable, yes, Honorable Mbui.
Mr. Speaker, I'm sorry to stand to interrupt his debate, but Mr. Speaker, honestly, is it parliamentary for us, for the member of parliament, to belittle political parties that are actually parliamentary parties because they already have hit the 5% threshold that the standing orders define? So, Mr. Speaker, I want to ask that the member respect this party and withdraw those statements.
Honorable Speaker,
Yes.
for clarity purposes, what I meant is Wiper is short in number. They're actually very short in this House. That was my description. So, as I wind up, Honorable Speaker.
Your time is up.
That is all,
Wind up.
Honorable Speaker. Thank you.
Okay. The Honorable Junet, 10 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, from the onset, I want to say that I want to congratulate you first for being elected as a Speaker, but secondly, Mr. Speaker, we are a country that is governed by the Constitution and the rule of law. Mr. Speaker, you know, and members know very well, that we have, as a country, decided to govern our... Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, as a country, we have decided to manage our politics in a certain way, legally, Mr. Speaker. And I know, Mr. Speaker, that we did an amendment to the Political Parties Act here. And as alluded to by Honorable Ishungwa, it may have been as acrimonious as possible. But, Mr. Speaker, the law was passed. The law was assented to. And some of their architects might be even in this House with us. But anyway, that's a story for another day, Mr. Speaker. The law was assented to, Mr. Speaker, and the law was passed. And the law was taken to the Constitutional Court by a private citizen. And the court affirmed that the law was enacted constitutionally, Mr. Speaker. Having said, Mr. Speaker, that, and numbers were raised here, and voting was done, and everything was done. But, Mr. Speaker, the issue I want to raise here is that in governing our politics, we decided to have pre-election coalitions and post-election coalitions, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, what we are discussing here are members of parties that made a pre-election coalition agreement, Mr. Speaker. And, Mr. Speaker, that agreement was registered with the political parties registrar. And, Mr. Speaker, when I finish my presentation, I want to table that coalition agreement, Mr. Speaker. It is with me here. And all those parties have signed, Mr. Speaker, through their signatures, Mr. Speaker, in a broad daylight, in a ceremony that was held at KICC, Mr. Speaker. Those who are saying it was at night, maybe that time they were campaigning somewhere. But the ceremony, Mr. Speaker, started at 9 a.m. in the morning and ended at 3 a.m. And we went to a rally in Jacaranda after that until 6 p.m., Mr. Speaker, 3 p.m. And all these parties, Wiper, Kenya African Union, KANU, National Rainbow Coalition, National NARC Kenya, Muungano Party. This is Maendeleo Chap Chap, Mr. Speaker. They have signed here with their secretary, Mr. Wilfred Sijui Nyamu, Mr. Speaker, Democratic Action Party, Devolution, all of them signed here, Mr. Speaker. And I want to table this agreement, Mr. Speaker. And Ochieng Party, Mr. Speaker, MDG, signed here. And I know why he signed, Mr. Speaker, but that's a story for another day. Mr. Speaker, we must respect our laws, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you yourself, you are a party leader, Mr. Speaker, before the election. And you decided on your own volition, your party wants to have a pre-election coalition agreement with another coalition, Mr. Speaker. And those parties should have followed you suit, Mr. Speaker. You cannot, Mr. Speaker, break a marriage, just to pick from where Honorable Osoro left. You cannot engage in another marriage, Mr. Speaker, and marry another person before you divorce the first one, Mr. Speaker. And when you want to divorce, there is a divorce procedure to follow, Mr. Speaker. You must divorce procedurally, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, what I want to say is that, Mr. Speaker, this pre-election coalition agreement is in force, Mr. Speaker. It is registered. This country has left the era when coalition agreements used to be rubbish the way they want, Mr. Speaker. That is what made the Political Parties Act to bring provisions that make sure that coalition agreements are held against the people who signed for it, Mr. Speaker. You remember the MOUs that were signed in 2002, the MOUs that were signed. When the new constitution came, this parliament, in its own wisdom, passed the Political Parties Act and said that you have to deposit the agreement with the registrar of political parties. If you want to exit this coalition agreement, there are exit clauses you have to follow. There are clauses that allow you to exit, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, more importantly, the parties that claim to have left this coalition, Mr. Speaker, have written to me as the Secretary General of Azimio. They have petitions. They are saying after that they are going to the Constitutional Court to get an order to get out of the coalition, that is the right route. If they knew they can walk in and walk out as they wish, why are they deciding to go to court? They should have just walked away like somebody who's in a supermarket, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it is either, when we came here, Mr. Speaker, we swore to uphold and defend the Constitution, Mr. Speaker. That is the oath of office we took. And the Constitution demands us to respect instruments of legal nature like this that you have committed to yourself to, Mr. Speaker. If you want to walk out of it the way you want, that's your choice. But the fact of the matter is, this country will be governed by the rule of law. This country will be governed by the Constitution, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, how do we have a mature democracy? Mr. Speaker, this presidential system that we are using to govern our country, we borrowed from the United States of America. Mr. Speaker, there are times when the president of the Republic of Kenya does not have the numbers in the Congress, but he does not cease being the president of that republic. They have midterm elections where the president loses the Congress. Obama lost it in 2015, I think, but he did not cease being the president of the Republic of the United States of America. Mr. Speaker, it doesn't mean that for you to become president, you must have the numbers in Parliament. No. Parliament is a separate arm of government. Mr. Speaker, you can still remain the president and you still don't have numbers in the National Assembly. Maybe you have the numbers in the Senate. That is how mature democracies operate, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you can get numbers in Parliament through election. You cannot get members of Parliament through poaching, Mr. Speaker. That's a fact of the matter, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we want to categorically say on the floor of this House, the precedents we are going to set in this Parliament this time is going to be for posterity, because we are going to have elections in 2027. A president might be elected who is going to have less numbers in the National Assembly. Then he wants to force people to accept that he's the majority party in Parliament because he's the president. No, the presidential election is separate from the parliamentary election, Mr. Speaker. People can be elected in one party, in one coalition, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, let us not mutilate democracy on the floor of this House, Mr. Speaker. We must accept that the will of the people of Kenya, who elected the president as the president, must be respected as the will of the people who gave certain coalition and certain party the majority in this House, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I am being told that Azimio la Umoja, one party, has no leadership in this House. Their presidential candidate is in this House. The leader of the Kenya Kwanza is not in this House, Mr. Speaker. He is sitting in State House. He's the president. He is in State House. He's not in this House with us. So there is no requirement the leader of a coalition must be in this House, Mr. Speaker. The leader of the coalition can sit anywhere in town so long as his troops and his members of Parliament are in this House, Mr. Speaker. You cannot, then let us have the president here sitting with us, Mr. Speaker, as the leader of the Kenya Kwanza coalition, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we don't want even ourselves as the Azimio la Umoja to be given a due advantage, Mr. Speaker. If we had less numbers, Mr. Speaker, the will of the people, these parties that joined Azimio la Umoja One Kenya, Mr. Speaker, came knowing very well that they are in this coalition in their rightful state of mind, Mr. Speaker, and the people who elected them to this House knew very well that they are in that coalition, Mr. Speaker. It will be betrayal of the people who elected those people in the name of Azimio, Mr. Speaker, for them to come to Nairobi, for them to come to the Parliament and change course, Mr. Speaker. That is not the democracy we want to advance in this country, Mr. Speaker. Let us have clean, let us have politics that follows the law, Mr. Speaker. Let us have politics that respects institutions, Mr. Speaker. For example, just wait, Pokosi. Mr. Speaker, the registrar of political society, political party, Mr. Speaker, has this document.
Point of order, Honorable Junet.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Point of order, Mr. Speaker. I wanted to know, Mr. Speaker, is it in order, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, standing order number 1, Mr. Speaker, which state claims, Mr. Speaker, that Honorable Junaid Mohammed, Mr. Speaker, correct, Mr. Speaker, should Junaid Mohammed, Mr. Speaker, lie to the House that he is the director of elections in ODM and again, as Secretary General of Azimio la Umoja as a party, Mr. Speaker? One must pay allegiance to one political party. Can you tell us, Mr. Speaker, which position he holds in both Azimio and ODM? And a promoter of BBI, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I know.
Honorable Junet, your time is up. I give you 30 seconds to...
Mr. Speaker, to conclude my submission, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this Parliament has a date with destiny, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah.
The way we rule on this matter, Mr. Speaker, will determine the way our politics will be conducted going forward. So, Mr. Speaker, I urge you, with humility, have fidelity to the Constitution and the law. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Duale.
Mr. Speaker, today is a day that I will remember. Early this year, we had the Political Parties Amendment Bill, very chaotic, and Mr. Speaker, the CS until I am approved by this august House. Mr. Speaker, I remember, and the answer will prove me right. I told my colleagues then that don't make laws that will haunt you. You are running away from that chaos. As they say, Murive, don't run. Murive, don't run. Junet and his colleagues, don't run. This matter must be decided this afternoon. And Mr. Speaker, your predecessors have decided more complex issues. I was with you in the 10th Parliament, during the Grand Coalition government, where the leader of government business used to be the chair of the House Business Committee. And when the Vice President, then Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka, and the Right Honorable Raila Odinga argued who will chair, Speaker Marende took over. So, Mr. Speaker, in the legislature, you are the arbiter. You should not be referred to. Listen to us, and based on law and facts and evidence. Mr. Speaker, what my colleagues, our opponents, are going through is what the medical doctors call placebo. Placebo is called a lie, a healing. You claim that you have healed psychologically, but you have not healed. So in in March of this year, early this year, the Speaker, you know we are not in Isli, where me and him talk to each other like that. We are in the guest house, Speaker. Yeah. When we are in Isli, we can talk to you the way we want. Yeah, this is the guest house. Yes. Mr. Speaker, so Mr. Speaker, they thought this was the healing. The healing time is over. But Mr. Speaker, I want you to to rule on 6 things I want to tell you. I'm the Speaker, and I want to start with Article 2 of the Constitution, sub-Article 4 says, any law, including customary law, that is inconsistent with this Constitution is void to the extent of the inconsistency, and any act or commission in contravention of this Constitution is invalid. Even an act of parliament passed by this House, if it is not consistent with this Constitution, it is null and void. Mr. Speaker, Article 36 of the Constitution, and Article 36 of the Constitution, Mr. Speaker, is on the Bill of Rights. It's about human rights. It says the freedom of association. Speaker, you have to give me my time then, you know, when I'm disrupted.
Give him the mic.
He must say what's out of order.
Thank you, Honorable
The
Speaker.
Honorable Watch.
Yes, thank you, Honorable Speaker. Is it in order that the former majority leader misleads this House by giving the impression that the question of constitutionality or anality is a question that can be determined otherwise than by a court of law? We can have our own interpretations, we can have our own thinking of what is constitutional or not, but this is a question that can only be determined by a court of law. Is it in order?
Mr. Speaker, in this august House, by the arbiter, you are the ones who decide. Those who go to the judicial system, to the courts, you can go, as Honorable Wandai said. So, Mr. Speaker, Article 36 is in the Bill of Rights. For even to amend it, you must go to a referendum. It's about freedom of association. And it says that you can join, you can participate in any activity of any association of your kind. 36(2) says that nobody can compel you to join. Mr. Speaker, PA, MDG, and I want to thank the leader of MDG, is in this House. He is a leader to be watched in Luo Nyanza. He's a serious guy. He came to this House with a small party in Siaya, from Siaya County. He must enjoy his rights, Mr. Speaker. The framers of the Constitution protected MDG. The framers of the Constitution, both in letter and spirit, protected PA as a party and its membership, rank and file. Article 38, Mr. Speaker, and you must rule on it. Again, in the Bill of Rights, it's about human rights. It says on political rights that provides political rights of every person, including members of PA, members of MDG, members of small parties. Mandela Chap, they have got political rights, and the Constitution under Article 38 defense. Mr. Speaker, a legal document signed, and I'm sure when you talk to the Speaker of the Senate, your colleague, you talk to the Foreign Secretary nominee, they will tell you they signed the last page under coercion, under intimidation. Mr. Speaker, do you follow that document? Mr. Speaker, let me finish. Let me finish here this time. Mr. Speaker, let me finish. And you have to give me time.
Yes, the Honorable Chega.
I'll prove. I'll bring Kinot here. Kinot is still high.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, Mr. Speaker, I respect Honorable Duale as a ranking member. And any evidence that he gives to this House must be factual. So for him to come and lie to this House that people signed under coercion, it is really very unfortunate, Mr. Speaker. And I would like, Mr. Speaker, that we strict ourselves to the facts. Here, Mr. Speaker.
They will speak.
Who signed, they can speak on their behalf and on themselves. And so I would really urge Honorable Member, Honorable Duale, to just speak the facts.
Mr. Speaker, you need to add me time. Mr. Speaker, in this House, Mr. Speaker, my good sister, Sabina Chege, at that time was the custodian of the instrument. Honorable Ochieng will speak. Honorable Kamket will speak. Yes. Members of PA will speak. Yes. members of Mandela Chapchap will speak, and they will say under what condition, under what environment they signed. And the people of Kenya must hear to David Ochieng. And Mr. Speaker, because a commission of inquiry into certain things might be formed. So relax. Mr. Speaker, listen to Article 1, Article 36, Sub-Article 2, Sub-Article 38 on political rights. Mr. Speaker, the other thing you need to, I'm inviting you to is whether Azimio coalition is a political party or a coalition party. And Mr. Speaker, I want to give as a ranking member. These are members who will approve me. And please, now I'm the member for township. In fact, the serious issue Azimio should think about is that they will not access the political party's fund. And I'll tell you why. The 6.9 million votes, Honorable Raila Odinga, a man who inducted me into politics, got it. He was the only candidate of that party in the general election. There was no MCS in Azimio. There were no MPs. There were no governors. Read the Political Parties Act. It says, Mr. Speaker, defend me from
pursuing an argument.
No, I'm pursuing an argument. You will have your time. No, Mr. Speaker, you can't shout. You can't shout when I'm on my feet. No.
Order, Honorable Chonga.
Mr. Speaker, he has
Honorable Duale. Honorable Chonga, I believe you're a first timer. Second timer. Okay. Then you should know even better that the order, Honorable Chonga.
Speaker is talking.
Honorable Chonga, there are your colleagues here who are here for the first time, and they are looking to you to learn on how to conduct yourself. It's out of order to stand up and shout at your colleague across the aisle. You seek the Speaker's permission, then you pursue a counter argument. But you do not stand up and behave in a rally situation, which I said we shouldn't have.
Mr. Speaker, because I have been very much interrupted, I'll give you about 3 more minutes. Mr. Speaker, I want you to also, I invite you to...
I'll give you 2 minutes because of the...
I want to invite you to whether the exit clause in the post-election agreement has any basis. Mr. Speaker, I looked at the Political Parties Act 2011. There is nowhere that will stop PAR and these other parties from exiting. Let my colleagues tell me which section. Mr. Speaker, you need to look at whether... Speaker, some are telling you that the matter is sub judice. I agree. But Mr. Speaker, Standing Order 89.5 allows you as a Speaker to allow this House to discuss a matter that is in court. So, Mr. Speaker, we are within the parameters of law. Finally, Mr. Speaker, the Speaker use the Constitution. Use Article 108. This matter is very serious. Forget about coalitions, Mr. Speaker. Deal with the political parties. If you have got 84 members, that is your share as ODM. If you have 145 members, that is the share given to you by the people of Kenya, UDA. If you have got 5 or 10, like Kanu, Kamket has left, now you are less shares. If you are PAR, there are 3. They want to enjoy their freedom. Mr. Speaker, during your predecessor, he made a ruling on a matter concerning Honorable David Ochieng. When David Ochieng was elected in a small party and